There we go. Hello. Hello and good evening. Welcome to episode 19 of Jeremy Makes Stuff. This is going to be a little bit different episode. Probably a little bit shorter than the usual hours. The title of this episode is 2018 in Review and talking about 2019. I know this is the first episode of 2019. So last episode we started a new little project, right? Creating some Wi-Fi controlled fingers that can play piano. I'm still gonna continue working on that, but since this is the new year, fresh start or whatever kind of stuff, wanted to talk about kind of what happened and last year and where it's going in this year, and just kind of talk about some planning stuff. I'm actually going to open up Notion. I think. And I'll start a new page and we can talk about the new year. So, first of all, 2018, I started this YouTube show. Let's see here. Let me pull up the channel. And basically, it all started with, whoops, that's me live. That's not what I wanted. But basically, it all started with me wanting to start doing some live streaming and having some a little bit of live accountability for some projects and things I had going on. Also to work on some broadcasting stuff and recording stuff and editing and all these little different things. It very quickly evolved in a good way, I think, to well, I mean, like the title of the show, right? Like the logo here, Jeremy Makes Stuff. It very quickly just became me making all kinds of things, and I'm still good with that. I think the title still fits. 18 episodes is a lot. At the beginning, there were several episodes kind of clumped together, but then very quickly got into the weekly flow, which has been nice. With only skipped one for Thanksgiving, and talked about some video game design stuff and lots and lots of 3D printing, some coding, fixing some issues, had hardware issues and software issues is dealing with, and then we built the digital magnifying glass using the old phone and the I think my camera froze. Come back. There we go. Designed and printed the stand for that, and it's working great. I actually used it. I mean, I'm not surprised I used it right. I mean, I made it to use it, but I actually used it the other day whenever I had to replace the fan on the 3D printer, and so that was cool. That I had the tool available. So that was fun. Did some Halloween stuff with the Raspberry Pi and some 3D printing. Got a new 3D printer, the Ender 3. Did that nice 5-hour and 5-second video with Tiger. That was a lot of fun. And some other, recording music and Then also the CNC work with Tiger on the signs we made. That was a lot of fun. Learned a lot there too. That was my second time to ever do wood staining, and the second time really to be involved working on the CNC machine. So it's been a lot of fun, I think, and had a lot of cool stuff going on. Nothing jumps out at me as something I shouldn't have done as far as the episodes go, you know. So I feel like it's been a good direction so far, a direction that I like, and seem to be getting some response from it. If anything, I think maybe I've done quite a bit with the 3D printing. I mean, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. I think I could focus a little more on a few of the other ideas, and that's where I think, like the current project, the project we started last week, the Wi-Fi controlled piano player, that's a good extension of that. Where yeah, it's using 3D printing because it's gonna 3D print the fingers, but it's also some hardware design and some circuit stuff and Arduino code and ESP8266 code. So there's some coding and there's design, and in the end it's going to be music. So it's really tying in a bunch of all the different pieces done along the way. I just realized that. That's pretty cool. So I think things have been progressing well so far. Please, if you have any thoughts on how things are going, comments, the format of the videos, let me know. Episode 17, the format was a little bit different because it took 2 days to do this project. It was like 17 hours of actual working time on the project, and shot a bunch of video while doing that. It took several days because the stain had to dry, and you know, running that many jobs on the CNC machine takes time, right? Because you can only do one at a time, or I mean, we could do more than one at a time, but we wanted it to be perfect, right? Lined up where it was and all that kind of stuff. So that episode was a little bit different. 17 hours condensed down to 23 minutes. And that was a lot of fun too, doing the editing of that and doing the shooting of that, both in my garage and in Tiger's garage, and the different angles with the machines and stuff. So that was a lot of fun. It was a long project, relatively speaking, you know, 17 hours working on these signs, and then another probably 4 hours editing the video and stuff together. I definitely prefer the live streaming to that. It's a little less involved, and I feel like it's a little more, it's definitely easier on me, right? But at the same time, it catches a lot more problems. Like, there's been several episodes where there's just been either technical issues with the broadcasting or issues with whatever it was I was working on. So the live episodes do feel more sort of seat of the pants, but I think it shows, you know, the real struggles behind making stuff, whatever it is, right? So into 2018, Christmas came, and I wanted to show you a few things that I got for Christmas, and then after that, and then talk about 2019. So first of all, let me see where I put it. Oh, it's in my pocket. For Christmas, from my father-in-law, I received my first ever Swiss Army knife. So it's the medium-sized one with you know, the screwdriver but not the corkscrew, can opener, couple of blades, you know, all that kind of fun stuff. It's nice and sharp. This is a great gift. I got a RAM upgrade for my laptop. Went from 8 gigabytes to 32 gigs. I have to install that. I thought about doing an episode on that, but that's kind of boring. We already took one laptop apart, messing with the fan, you know, whatever. Um, then after Tiger and I did the build video, the assembly video of the Ender 3 printers that we got, about a month later, Tiger decided he was going to order a second one to put in his classroom. And that got me excited. So I ordered myself a second one. Let's see, Stinger839 says, oh good, it shows up on the screen too. Says, how have you never had a Swiss Army knife? Were you raised on another plane? Yeah, I guess so. No, I just, growing up, I never did. I had some other knives, but never a Swiss Army knife. So, I don't know. It's crazy. But, so, I ordered a second Ender 3. It was supposed to get here before Christmas, which would have been amazing because I was doing tons of 3D prints for friends and family for Christmas. Let's see, I've got some photos I can show you. Some photos I can show you. Where did my pictures go? Here we go. I think my favorite recent thing to do with a 3D printer is to do the lithophane prints. So if you don't know what a lithophane is, we discussed it in one of the earlier episodes. I guess all episodes are earlier than now. Whatever. The lithophanes are, originally they were done, there was a French artist in the 1785, I don't know, it's on Wikipedia. But he figured out that with porcelain, he could carve out sections and not carve out other sections, and it looks kind of funky, but then when you put light behind it, more light comes through on the thinner sections than the thicker sections. And it was really popular, and he was making all these pictures and stuff with that. And then somebody else figured out, fast forward now to the 21st century, somebody else figured out that you can 3D print the same way. And let's see here. So, for example, my for Christmas for my mother-in-law and father-in-law, I took a photograph of a picture of them on their wedding day back in 1970 something. And then using this one website, I think it's 3dprinting.rocks or something like that, to convert it to the lithophane, and then 3D printed it so that this picture, let me get this in a good spot here, it looks like the photograph, sort of in a sepia toned kind of thing when you hold it up to the light. But whoops, I accidentally started my NASA API Explorer application. When but when it's not held up to the light, when it's just been printed, let's see if I can get it. That's a video. That's okay. I'll still take a screenshot of it. It looks weird because it's basically a negative. So here you can see, like, here's his tuxedo, and here's the flowers, and here's her hair. There's still a lot of light coming from behind it in this picture, but it makes a whoops, looks like a negative, and then when you hold it up to the light, you see the actual image. So pretty cool stuff. We talked about it in one of the episodes previously. I don't want to drone on about it too much. I think it was episode 16. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. I've printed maybe 10 of them, I guess. or so. I don't know. They turn out really neat and people really like them. Which, remember that, because that's going to play some a part into the 2019 talk. So anyway, I didn't get my second 3D printer before Christmas, so I had to prioritize the gifts and all that kind of stuff. And I ended up getting most of the stuff done I needed to as far as 3D printing. I did some gift boxes and things too, which was cool, with some LEDs and whatever. But finally, after Christmas, the second 3D printer showed up. So I put it together, and it, I had assembled one once before. It was exactly the same, except the Z-axis instop, even though it was in the same place as the first one, there was something else different to the position of it versus the position of the bed. And after doing some research, I found out that the design had been updated, so you could use a glass bed, which is thicker than the build tack like material that comes with the standard. So this and the reason you'd want to use a glass bed, there's a couple different things. One, you can take it off, which I didn't actually glue my other one down, so I could still take it off. I just used the binder clips. Then also the surface is super smooth, because glass is level and it's smooth and clean and all that kind of stuff. So the bottom of the print is like super smooth, just like the glass. And also with PLA, you don't have to use any additional like glue or hairspray or anything to make the plastic adhere to the bed. And when it's done printing, once it cools, it just pops right off, no problem. You don't have to get in there with a scraper and break it loose. With ABS, it needs something to help it stick to the glass plate, like a glue stick or an ABS slurry, which is weird. It's like acetone mixed with a little bit of like ABS filament chunks to make like a paste, or hairspray. And I'd used the hairspray before at one of the makerspaces I was a member of, and it worked. But with PLA, I don't have to worry about that. Now, I didn't want to pay an additional $35 or whatever for the special glass bed. So instead, I decided to learn a new skill. I went to Home Depot and bought a 6-pack of 12 by 12 mirror tiles and a scoring toolkit, and learned how to score the glass, the mirror, and break it. Probably have lots of bad luck now, but I mean, if luck is a thing, I already have all the bad luck anyway, right? With all the problems I'm having all the time. It came out really nice. So I have a picture to show you, if I can find it now. I have the two 3D printers set up on the table behind me, with the first one, the original one. It has all the white accessories, the white spatula holder, the white filament spool, or filament guide, the white cable guide, the white fan cover, the white cable cover. And for the new one, I did it in all red. So it's the red filament guide, the red, etc., etc., etc. So I've actually named them red and white, and the reason, so you can see here in the picture, let me zoom in here, you can see the bed on the new one, on the red one, has the mirror as the base. And I'm still tuning it just right to get the prints to happen just right, but it's what I have done on it that's come out has been really good, and I'll show you some stuff here in a minute with that. Let me shrink this a little bit. There we go. The interesting thing about that is it was the first time I've ever scored glass, right? So the edges, 3 of the edges are pretty straight. The back has a little sort of bump in the back, but it's okay. As long as I kind of keep that to the back. You can sort of see it in the photograph here. Right back here. But, or maybe not, because the jet's in the way. Let me put the jet somewhere else. There. So this straight line comes across, and there's kind of a step around over right here. But, as long as I don't cut myself, I'll be fine. And, that made a nice flat bed surface there. So yeah, right now I've got the 2 set up. I'm actually not running a print right now. I was joking with the guys at the Makerspace. It's like, you know, ABP. And Kim was like, what's that? So always be printing, you know, got these machines. Should, you know, be doing something with them all the time. Well, they're off right now, but, and I'll explain why here in a sec too. So I got the printer. It's great. Also, there was a coupon for the new year, and I went to Harbor Freight and made a big purchase. And this was exciting because, oops, come on, my window froze. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure. Let's see here. I can't tell if things are working because my screen froze. There we go. Okay. That was weird. Okay. I guess it's still working. Alright. So, I went to Harbor Freight and had this big coupon. And I wanted to get a desktop lathe. It's a good size. You know, sits on the desk. Do some small stuff with it. None of the stores nearby had one. And I called around to 3 different stores and found... and they have 3 different lathes at the store. There's a little tiny metal lathe for like $700. Crazy. And then there was this medium-sized one for wood and a giant one for wood. And after doing the math and with the coupon I had, the giant one was basically the same price with the coupon as the smaller one was as a regular price. So, after debating about it for a little bit and finding one in town, I decided to get that. And I was talking with Ken at the time, and he was like, so what's another tool you want? And I was like, no, I want a lathe. So that's what I got. Loaded up in the van, fit nicely in the back. Also got a set of the turning chisels or whatever, and some new files, and another wood guide for the table saw. So I started unpacking it. Let's see if this will work. I don't know why my Chrome is messed up now. Alright, well, anyway, I started unpacking it. I'm not done yet. It was slightly overwhelming at first. The manual has a ton of pictures. There's a whole exploded view of everything with even the parts of the motor taken apart and all that. But I don't have to put the motor together. The motor's fine. You know, it's in one piece. So I got a little overwhelmed at first, but everything's okay. Then like I said, I don't have it put together yet. I'm working on that. There's also been a lot of rain and went back to work and all this kind of stuff. So working on it when I have time. Hopefully this weekend I'll get it together and can do some fun stuff. I have been watching some tutorials and things about how to use the lathe properly and using different materials and like 2 or 3 different kinds of wood glued together to make a thing. The thing goes on and you turn that, and these neat little like designs for bowls and cups and rings and all kinds of stuff. I was telling my wife, I'm like, I can make a table leg, I can make a baseball bat, all kinds of fun stuff like that. So I did clean up the garage, got it partially out of the box, getting that assembled. So got some new tools then, right? The 3D printer, second 3D printer, the large lathe, and lots of fun stuff happening, and hopefully can do some neat episodes coming up. I know the wood turning can be kind of slow and involved, so I may not do too much live with it, but definitely maybe some of the another edited episode or something, starting with some raw material, putting it together and running it, turning it and all that kind of stuff, and finishing it out and whatever. So we'll see how that goes. I feel like I could do some broadcasting, the live shows from the garage, but it tends to be longer projects and processes and stuff in there that like with the science, it took 17 hours across 2 days. I'm not going to be live broadcasting for all that time. So anyway, that's kind of where I ended up over there. But then since I had the 2 3D printers now, and I've started looking at some other sort of things that people have done with the printers that aren't exactly like the way it's meant to be used. So for example, there's another YouTube channel. The guy goes by the name Uncle Jesse, and he was showing off some prints by or some designs by another guy named David Shorey with Shorey Designs, and he's been doing some 3D printing on fabric. And I'd seen some stuff before where somebody would take like a t-shirt and put it down on the printer and print on the t-shirt, and that was kind of cool. But with this, it was taking either like a mesh material like tulle, or I think in one of the interviews he was talking about the screen material. And so I started, I don't think I can get the pictures to work. I'm gonna have to kill Chrome and bring it back up. If it'll close. There we go. But come on. Let me move this over here. Oh my gosh. That's not working out either. Well, anyway, the now everything is frozen again. Apparently I'm having computer issues this evening. Anyway, so there was this method of printing with some mesh material where you let it lay down 2 layers first, and then pause the print, and then put down the fabric material, and then resume the print, and it starts printing back where the where it was, and the mesh material gets adhered between the layers and becomes part of the print. It's in the print. So I thought I would give that a shot, and I did this little sample, which of course, since it's a green screen and this is green, you can't see it. Let me turn off my green screen filter. Maybe. Oop, there we go. I don't know what's going on with my desktop tonight. I'd reboot, but then it would kill the stream. Well, anyway, you can kind of see it, but you can see through it. It's this hexagon pattern that I put together in Tinkercad, and it's got the mesh material here, so I'm holding it by the mesh. It's hard to see, and it sort of folds around. I was like, well, that's pretty cool, the small piece of it. So then, since I have the two 3D printers, I printed two pieces, one in white and one in green, and these are bigger, and you know, they conform to whatever is they're put on, right? So here it's like on my arm, kind of like scales or whatever. So whoops, in the video with Uncle Jesse, he was talking about cosplay stuff. In some of the interviews I've seen with David Shorey, he had created a 3D printed dress made in a similar fashion. He called it fashion Legos. It was actually some other pieces that could clip together to make multiple sections and all this. But it's really neat, you know, design here and effect going on. And the thing, I saw another one where, like, so it had one of David Shorey's designs. It prints like this, but then each one has a clip, and then you had some like dragon claws or scales that would snap in, and it made these like cool looking extensions off of it. So I've got a few ideas of things to do, kind of like with this stuff. You know, some different costume things, or some kind of like even a neat curtain, right? I've been thinking about moving the printers to the garage and using you know, building a box around them, and I could make some 3D printed dividers for that or whatever. Let me try this one more time. One sec. Stuff just isn't cooperating again. Chrome is using a gig and a half of memory for some reason. Let's see if I can kill it. So that was really neat, and I've got some really great pictures of it that I was going to show you, but apparently I can't right now. Let's see, that's coming down, so that'll work eventually. And let's see, I don't think I have. I don't have Firefox installed, but that was really cool because I've got one shot of it where, so it lays down the two layers and you put the material on it, then it lays down 3, 4, 5, however many, and I've got one really good shot of it where there's two layers down and I've got the material on top, and it's in the process of doing the third layer. So there's some hexagons where you can see the mesh and some hexagons where you can't, because it's you know, in the middle of printing it. It was a really great shot. Hey, all the Chrome windows closed now. Try this one more time. See if I can pull up some of these pictures. There we go. I don't mean to, you know, just hang on to this, but this is pretty neat, I think. Let's see. So some pictures. Here's the print bed, the first two layers and the mesh laid down on it. Let's see if I can zoom in and you can actually see the material. Yeah, it looks like a grid pattern laid across here, right? And it's just this spool of tooling, and there were like 3 different sizes. I got this wide because it was about the same width as the bed of the printer, which works out nicely because then I don't have to make multiple cuts if I don't want to. And once I taped it down, where did the window go? Nope, this one. Yeah. Once I taped it down and it started printing the layers, you can see here where like this one's not. Oh wow, yeah, super zoomed in. So you can see the difference between this one here, where it hasn't printed the third layer yet, but this one it has printed the third layer. So you can't see the material through the third layer, and it just really it holds on good, right? It holds on tight. You know, it's nice solid hold between the layers of the print there, and I mean it looks really cool in person. And it just feels really neat, kind of rolls around, sort of like a piece of leather, I guess, kind of. But I was really impressed with what I was able to do with that after, you know, I mean, I saw some guy's video and I was like, oh, I'll try this. On this white one, I did have a couple of issues where the hexagons were really stuck to the bed. And when I used the scraper to get it off, I did tear a couple of spots in between the between the hexagons. So like there's a spot right here, but with the glass bed, it didn't stick at all. I mean, well, it adhered while it was printing, right? But once it cooled, it popped right off just fine. So on these green ones, which you can't see because of the green screen still, turn off the filters. There we go. So with this green one, nice bright green, this side, this is the top side. It's still like pretty rough because I'm still dialing in the printer. You can see it's got some rough edges there. But on the other side that was on the mirror, it's so smooth, it's crazy. I had no idea like how smooth it would be. I mean, it's so smooth, it's reflective. And on this, you can actually see the tooling a little better, I guess, through there. I was fighting with it. I didn't get it taped down good, and some of it kind of balled up a little bit. You can see like some tears and stuff in there, but let's see, where did the other piece go? Oh, down here. One sec. Yeah. So the bigger green piece, which you can now see because I turned off the green screen filter. Same thing. The back side, I mean, you can see the difference just in it reflecting off the light over there. On this side, how it just bounces off. And this side, it doesn't really reflect. And again, this side is like super rough because I'm still, you know, getting all the settings right. But the smooth side is just so smooth and shiny. But, you know, it just sort of, if I just drape them over, you can kind of see the sort of idea there, right? So you could have some bracers or shoulders or something made with some material with some spikes on it or whatever, and it would, you know, work out for a pretty cool costume with some stuff coming off or whatever. And then it's just attached to the material, which can be sewed on to the costume or whatever. So really super cool stuff. Like I said, I don't mean to dwell on it. I just like think it's really cool. So that was neat. So now, let's see, was that all of the pictures I had to show of that? I think pretty much. There's just some other shots of the printer and stuff, but pardon me. So that was really neat, and after just, you know, a few hours try, they worked really well. I'm impressed with that. So I'm gonna have some fun with some more designs on that, and you know, on the in Simplify 3D, I just took that first initial design and copied and pasted and moved it around to print the second, the larger set. You know, I can just copy and paste and, oops, zoom back out, grab these, use the right tool, move it over, kind of line it up where I think it should be. That looks about right, right? And now I just got a bigger piece of it, right? So that would essentially be these two together. And you know, I've got the full width of the print bed, and the way the tooling works, or the screen door material works. If it's in a longer strip, you know, could do the first 2 layers, put it down, do the next, and then when it comes off, let it do the next 2 layers, and then just move forward on the material and lay it down and do the next. And eventually it could just have like a full long sheet of this printed tiles, sort of scale flowing fabric stuff, and with different sizes, different shapes, different distances between the pieces, you know, all kinds of options. So pretty excited about that, and that it turned out so well on you know, just a first couple of tries of stuff. So who knows, this may come up again soon, and different things I've got going on. Also for Christmas, my brother gave me a nice Yeti. I'm gonna have to 3D print a handle for this. I designed a handle for the Yetis, I guess, oh geez, by now it was like 3 years ago, and printed a few for people, and they're, you know, a nice, good, solid handle. I'm gonna have to print me one for this, from this new Yeti. Oh, that was the other thing. So I just saw something. The same time that I got the tool, I got some thread, and I thought I would try and do something similar with the thread. And I closed the window, so I'm going to steal this one back. And I thought, scroll please, there we go. I thought maybe I could 3D print some, I mean, I didn't want to just like 3D print some beads or whatever, right? I mean, you can go buy some beads, or you could design and 3D print your own beads. But I wanted to try to, success or failure. This was kind of a failure. I had 6 spheres, 6 discs rather. And originally, after the first 2 layers, I had the string down the center of the spheres. I keep saying spheres. They were actually half spheres, but I stopped it early. I had the string down the center of them with these binder clips, but the print resolution was at 0.1 millimeters. Yeah, this was at 0.1 millimeters, but the string, according to the label that was on it, was 1.5 millimeters in thickness, and I didn't really think about that. I just put the string across and told it to print. So as the print head continued to print, it started to push, and as you can see here, so originally it was in a straight line going this way, but as it was doing the layers, it kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and the string ended up pushed off here, and then it got pushed more on the second one, and got pushed more on the third one, and after the third one it was like it hung from the string here, but it's not exactly what I was going for. But it was kind of cool. It didn't work out though. But using the mesh did, so that's neat. Going forward, we'll see what I can do there. So that was my holiday time off, and that was our 2018 in review. Let's now talk a little bit about 2019, and I just have Notion open here. Jeremy makes stuff, and 2019 shows stuff. So, first off, there are some. So we're already working on a project right now, right? We started last week with the Wi-Fi controlled piano playing fingers project thing, with the 3D scanning and the printing, and then the circuit design and the software stuff. So we're still going on with that project, and so that that's still next week. I'm still working on the 3D scanning stuff for next week's episode. We should have that done and have some fingers printed. We'll see how that goes. But for 2019, one of the big things I want to do is upgrades to the 3D printers. So what upgrades specifically? And Notion is pretty cool. I don't know if I haven't really talked about it too much, but I can make these like headers and subheaders and stuff. It's pretty neat. So what kind of things do I want to do to the 3D printers? Well, I purchased. So right now I have the Zmoto cameras pointing at them, and they're on some Wi-Fi switches. So when I'm not home, I can still check in on them. If something goes wrong, I can shut them down. And now with these new ones, they have a resume feature. So when I turn it back on, fix the issue, whatever, I can resume the print. I have a lamp over there right now. It's some okay lighting. Especially now with two printers, though, it doesn't really give the full brightness to both because it's just a lamp over the side. So one of the things I want to do to upgrade the 3D printers, I want to add some LEDs, but I don't want to just like toss some LEDs on there. But I have these spools of LED lights, right? They're on these strips that I want to set up. The problem, though, is the power supply on the 3D printer's 24 volts, and these are 12 volts. So one of the things I recently purchased were some. Use the Swiss Army knife. I purchased some buck converters, and the way these work, it takes a higher voltage in, and then there's a dial on here, and then you set it to whatever voltage you want to come out. So it's going to go in 24. It's going to come out 12, and it'll power the LEDs, which will be cool. Now, to make sure I get that dialed in correctly to the 12 volts, I have these little tiny voltmeters. It's built into the back of the display. Oop, which way is the camera? There we go. So that's actually upside down. So I can drop this in series and see that it's for sure 12 volts and connect up to LEDs with some kind of, I'm sure there's some 3D printed bracket or something for the Ender 3 for some lights. And then use another one. Let's see. So then use another buck converter to step down from the 24 volts to 5 volts to add Raspberry Pi for AstroPrint to set up both printers on the AstroPrint cloud printing platform. So that way, I talked about AstroPrint once before. Tiger actually tried it out first and showed it to me. Which, hey, Tiger's in the comments now. He says, "I'll help with the latest stuff." Yeah, man. It'll be fun. We'll have to get together a couple of times. Do some lathe stuff. But the Astroprint's really cool from what I saw of it. See if I can easily explain what's happening here. So there's a Raspberry Pi operating system called Octoprint or Octoprint. And with Octoprint installed on a Raspberry Pi, and you can control the see, there's some screenshots, maybe documentation. You can control the 3D printer through the network. Yeah, there's not really pictures here, but you can control the 3D printer through the network. There's some APIs. You can do some integrations and all kinds of different stuff. Pretty neat stuff. Yeah, here we go. Here's some screenshots. So you can see the temperature values, what files being printed, how long it's got left. A camera view if you've got one set up connected to the Raspberry Pi. This is G-code viewer showing like where the print's happening and all that. So it's literally a computer with a slicer and everything in one connected to it, connect to your network. So you can peek in on the printer and see what's going on and send it jobs and all that when you're away. It's pretty nice. I used it a couple of times before with my old CTC printer. And then Tiger introduced me to Astroprint. And Astroprint, for one, it's prettier. Not to be vain about it or anything, but it definitely has a more modern look to it. I can't really see the... So this nice dashboard, all the printers are listed here. You can see it showing like the temperature and the time and all the different things, and there's a app for it and a website and all this, and it's all just connected to everything, to the internet, from your house, from your phone, whatever. And there's more security built into it. With the Raspberry Pi, or not the Raspberry Pi, the Octoprint, you can actually go to Shodan and search for Octoprint. And there's several people in the world that have their 3D printers connected to, so like if I click this link here, it might actually load the interface. Okay, this person actually has their set up with a login, which is good. But not all of them do that. Some of them are wide open, where you can see like what they're actually trying to print and see into their home or office because of the video camera on the Raspberry Pi. So you know, security is a major thing, and very important, right? Let's see. Okay, good. Well, so far all of these that showed up in the list have security, which is good. Some sort of security. But anyway, there's like 901 listed here. So, well, that's his top results. Yeah, and I'm not logged into a Shodan account or anything, so it's only going to show me a limited subset of data. But when I looked at this originally a few months back, there was like 6,000 or 8,000, and you know, it was in like libraries and offices and homes and apartments and whatever, and you know, people just don't know what they don't know, right? Like about the security stuff. So anyway, from what I've seen, Astroprint does have a little more security to it, which is nice. It's always important to be concerned with security and aware of security issues. You know, especially if with a piece of machinery that if sent the wrong set of commands could actually, you know, cause a fire or something. So that could be potentially bad. So anyway, yeah, I want to set up AstroPrint, and like I said, I've got the buck converters and the Raspberry Pis and all this. So basically, when the 3D printer is on, the LEDs will be on, the Raspberry Pi will be on, connected to AstroPrint and all that kind of stuff, and it's all controlled from the same power source instead of having to have, you know, a power strip with 3 different things plugged in for the printer and the LEDs and the Raspberry Pi. So it'll be nice and contained and concise. And if I can get it working and it's working well and all that, I don't know if Tiger, if that's something you'd be interested in, I may have a few extra buck converters and stuff. And I did get some Y cables as well, so I don't actually have to change the power cables on the printer. I can just, you know, put the Y cable on there, cut the end off of one, and then go into the buck converter to go off to the LEDs into the Raspberry Pi, while the other one just goes to the printer like normal, and there's not any like crazy wiring stuff going on. So that'll be an interesting project too that I want to do. Then from there, though, the next really like big upgrade I want to do isn't necessarily an upgrade to the printers, but I do eventually want to move them to the garage and build a oh my gosh, I can't spell. Build a box for them so they're housed inside of something. It's enclosed, keeps the heat, you know, where it needs to be, and do a what is it, a dry box or whatever for the filament. So I can have all, because I've got a bunch of different filament, I can have it all up on the shelf, and it's, you know, protected from the moisture and all of that, and just take it out when I need it, or even possibly have some, I've seen some dry box designs where the box itself has some holes in the bottom, and you feed the filament through whenever you need that one, and it keeps like the main spool protected from the elements and whatever. I don't know how much that's actually needed. I mean, I've got some filament that I've had, you know, stashed in the garage for a year that I've pulled out and used just fine. That's actually the bright green was, which looks black because of the background, was actually one, I think it was actually the first spool of filament I ever purchased. So it's even, you know, what, oh gosh, I don't know. That was back whenever I joined the Proto Makerspace. So, gosh, late 2014, early 2015. So, I mean, this is some old filament, I guess. And it's still, you know, printing fine. It's been through a flood, been through a garage for a year, you know. So, I'm not really sure what the seriousness is of handling the dynamics of the moisture and temperature of the filament throughout the year. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll just put a big maybe there. So then after that, I do have, you know, I want to do some woodworking projects. I'm not going to list out a whole bunch of different projects, but it's just, you know, on the list of things I'd like to do. But there are a few I have specifically in mind. Like there's a, I want to make a bench for our entryway downstairs, and you know, there's some, I think Tiger and I was talking about earlier today, where you can actually use a torch to char the wood, and it's what is it called? It's a Japanese method of messing with the wood, like Shigso band or something. Anyway, it looks really cool. It chars the wood, and then you sand it down, and you can stain it, and then sand it down a little bit again, and you have all these different colors and stuff coming out. Looks really cool. So I don't know what I would make with something like that, but it would be a neat project to, manipulate the wood in that way. Also with the lathe, want to do some stuff with the turning, and have all kinds of ideas there. And then I was wondering too, like, so I can make like a staff and then do some 3D printed stuff to hang off of it, and just different things like that for costumes or whatever. I don't know, just so many ideas, right? And then also, I've got several Wi-Fi plugs around the house for various things, and they're not too expensive, but they're not exactly cheap either. And while working on the CNC stuff, I was talking with Tiger, and he told me about these Wi-Fi plugs called Sonoff. So I got a set of those, like a 4-pack, and you literally cut the wire, plug it in one end, and then go on the other side, and it makes anything Wi-Fi enabled. So I think Tiger had said that their example was like, you've got a lamp, cut the wire and plug it in, but he was like, why not just do an extension cord? Then you have a Wi-Fi controlled extension cord that you can plug anything into, which makes a lot of sense to me. So I may do a project, something with some of those. I've got lights and fans in the garage controlled by Wi-Fi plugs, the 3D printers, a few lights downstairs, just different things like that. So it would be cool to hook up some other stuff and do some setup tutorial kind of things like that with using Alexa to control them, or phone or whatever. I'll put in Wi-Fi plugs. So just different sort of other stuff too with Wi-Fi specifically. Let me make this a sub thing here, because I have a bunch of ESP8266s that we're using one of them for the current project and making the piano playing fingers, the Wi-Fi controlled piano playing fingers. That's the ESP8266 in that project is actually the Wi-Fi module that is powering everything and will have the interface. Being able to just use it for different things. If I decide I want to have some Wi-Fi controlled whatever and set that up. Also, this one specifically, I don't know, this is a Node MCU. Let's see if I can get a good angle, light, whatever. There we go, right about there. And this piece of it is the ESP8266. I have some other ones that are just the ESP8266 chip, or I guess breakout board or whatever. But I set up this one is actually set up as a Wi-Fi deauthor that I was testing with. I have a couple extra routers, and I was playing with that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of neat applications with it, and like I said, I've got like a bag of them that I got from AliExpress a while back and haven't done too much with. So there's a lot of potential in this bag of stuff over on the shelf to make all kinds of neat things, and lots of ideas there. So between the 3D printing stuff and the woodworking projects and some hardware stuff and other software things and still some video game projects and all that and music, there's just all kinds of things to do in 2019. And I'm hoping, though, along the way to find some more projects like this Wi-Fi controlled piano playing thing that sort of combines all of those little pieces into a whole, for a a neat presentation. Like with the 3D printing and the 3D design, we created the digital magnifying glass. That was a cool project that touched on the two other things we were talking about at the time: the 3D design and the 3D printing. So I just want to kind of keep going with that. Another thing, and I'm going to tie this up here pretty quickly, but another thing with the actual 3D printing, with using the other materials, right, with the fabric or the yarn, one of the things that David Shorey, the guy that I guess discovered this, was talking about was using it in some kind of electronics fabrication method where the so let's see, what's a good example? I 3D printed a case for Cameron. He has the Google AIY. Let me show you this thing. This is pretty cool. So the Google AIY is a artificial intelligence yourself, sort of like do-it-yourself, right? Kit, where it comes with this speaker and this button, and it's got this cardboard box, and comes in this crazy kit with a Raspberry Pi and a speaker and all these different things, and it all sort of, I think he's got the voice kit, folds up nicely inside this box, which is behind my head. Still behind my head. Folds up nicely in this box. And you've got this thing that you can push the button and talk to it, kind of like Alexa. And yeah, so it's got this cool little thing. Well, he wanted a nice 3D printed case, and Adafruit had a design that looked like a robot, which was on Thingiverse. So, whoops, I can't type. Thingiverse and Google AIY. Thingiverse has been pretty slow for me recently. See if this looks, yeah. So here, Adafruit had this design of this robot, and I 3D printed it for him. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces, I think. If it'll open, and it looks nice. But since it was 7 pieces, it was 7 pieces because you have to assemble it, right? There's the base plate, which the Raspberry Pi goes on with the hat. Then there's the body, which inside of the body is where the speaker attaches. Then there's the top, and on the top, come on, there we go. On the top, the button goes in the hole here, and the microphone board goes up here. And then it all plugs together, and it looks cool. Well, using a similar method to how I paused the print to add in the fabric and then restarted the print, you could do the same thing with electronics. So it could actually print the base, and as well as part of the sides going up around the body, and pause when it gets to a little bit higher than where the Raspberry Pi is going to go, and move out of the way and let you actually put the Raspberry Pi in, and then continue the print. Tiger says I triggered his Alexa. Sorry about that. Let's see. I wonder if I can order something from your Alexa. But anyway, so then it would continue printing up until it got to the next spot where it was, had the cavity or whatever finished for the next piece of electronics, and so forth. So in the end, instead of having a print in multiple pieces, but I mean, that would be pretty cool to have, just be able to it comes off the printer and it has all the electronics and everything built into it. So there's, all kinds of possible applications there, all kinds of neat stuff to play with. It sounds like a lot of fun to me anyway. So combining that with the SP8266, which was, tiny, as well as other things like motors or sensors or triggers or whatever, it would, it can, well, there's some fun sounding projects there. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm headed for 2019. Now, there is one other big update that I haven't talked about yet. Specifically, 2019. Make sure this is there's a giant header. It's a huge 2019 announcement. I mean, it's kind of small on the screen. But, so right now what I've been doing is live Thursday nights starting at 9 p.m. and then just kind of going until either I'm too tired to continue or I hit a point where it's going to take too much time to be online, or I have to look up some tutorials or whatever, and that's when I'm cutting it off. So what I want to do starting next week, I'm going to start broadcasting instead of at 9 a.m. at 9 p.m. I'm going to back that up 1 hour to 8 p.m. And it's only going to be a 2-hour show from 8 to 10. And I'm going to cut off at 10, wherever we are in the middle of, running something or fixing something or whatever. That's where it's going to end. And this will help with a couple of different things. Specifically, whoops. You go back to YouTube. And go to the Jeremy Makes Stuff thing here. So right now it's kind of all over the place with the episode times, right? I mean, the shortest one was 2 weeks ago at 23 minutes with Tiger. The longest one, episode 12, 5 hours and 5 seconds with Tiger. I'm starting to see a trend here. A lot of these I'll go for 2.5, 3.5 hours. Here's another 3 hours, there's another hour and a half, a couple of hours there, 4.5 here, So it's kind of all over the map with how long the episodes have actually been. I want to dial that in, get more consistent, stay more focused, but still have that same, interaction and, crowd accountability, I guess. I don't really know what to call it. But, so I can keep it focused, keep it tight, have some nice, specific chunk of time there. So along with that, so the big announcement was new show time. Thursdays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Now, along with that, there's one thing that I've been absolutely horrible about. That's if you go to my website right now, like I am doing, there are only 3 episodes up on the website. But the YouTube playlist, there's 19 episodes, including this one we're doing right now. So I think I need to have the posts. It needs to help get the content out there that I'm creating, and also I want to start offering some other services through there. So this is where I was talking about the lithophanes earlier and said, don't forget about this. The over the past probably 2 months, between printing other stuff, I've printed about 10 lithophanes for different friends and family and different stuff like that. And so many people have thought, oh, these are so cool, and oh, how much would it cost? And can you do this for me? And can you do that for me? And whatever. And I've had some other people contact me. One of my friends from college saw me 3D printing some stuff for my Switch and wanted to get some stuff made for a kid. You know, I've never had a problem, you know, just doing stuff for friends and family, whatever, you know. But at this point, you know, I have my own ideas and desires and direction I'm going with different things, like with the show and with my side business stuff. And there's only so much time in the day as well. So many hours that the printers can always be printing. ABP, always be printing. So I think I want to add a store section to the website here, where if somebody wants to purchase a lithophane, they can, you know, it'll send me the image, and maybe have to do some back and forth with them because the shadows or whatever, you know, manipulate the image or whatever. And then it'll cost, you know, $35 for a lithophane print or something like that, so that I don't feel bad telling people no because I've got other stuff going on. So that's one thing. Two, it makes it worth my time to look at somebody else's stuff instead of my stuff, right? I mean, because if you have a passion project, you can't force your passion on other people. You know, but also somebody else isn't going to have that same passion for your project. So, you know, I've had other people say, hey, I want to talk to you about, like, I've got this idea to design something, you know, like a machine to bake bread in bulk or whatever. And, like, you know, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about this. I'm like, you know, that's cool. I can chat about it, but I my own, you know, I'm going to work on my stuff opposed to your stuff. This is this whole thing about, you know, focus and value of time and all this. And even if the time seems to be wasted, you know, I end up with some failure, right? Like with those, the discs with the string, that didn't work out. But I learned a few things about that, right? And that's what helped me do the mesh prints better, because I had tried and failed something else and had some other ideas, and you know, so it's not, even though it appears to be a failure at the time, it wasn't actually a failure because I was learning from it. So anyway, that's all to say. I've gotten a lot of good responses from some of the things I've made, and other people are interested in stuff. And several people would ask me too, like, hey, how much would it cost to do this? How much would it cost to do that? I mean, I don't know, $200 to buy a 3D printer and spend your time thinking about it. You know, but if you want to spend my time thinking about it and working on this, then I can figure out a price for it and go from there. And I don't know, maybe I can generate some extra revenue on the side besides some other business stuff I have going on, right? So, I mean, it's not like I'm going to be pushing ads to Facebook or anything. Like, hey, come design something in 3D and with me or whatever, you know. But enough people have been asking things, and enough people have been saying, hey, how much would it cost and what could I pay and all this kind of stuff, that it feels like there's an opportunity here. And maybe I can have a little fun with it too. I don't know. I mean, I tend to have fun with whatever I'm doing, even if it's something that's not necessarily fun, you know, in whatever situation. So I can probably pretty much enjoy myself, especially if my time is made worthwhile with it. So anyway, all that to say, I did some lithophane prints. A lot of people liked them. Maybe some other people want them. I'd be willing to do it for some money. Not to sound, you know, petty or selfish or anything, but it does take some time, and it takes up not necessarily a lot of my time, but it does take up printer time. So if it's going to take 6 hours to print a lithophane and 5 people want them, that's 30 hours where now I can't print something else, you know, where I can't experiment with fabric or, you know, print another calibration cube or whatever I want to do with my time with my printers, right? So anyway, I feel like I'm defending my decision to do that, even though there's not really any reason to defend it. It's, you know, it's life, it's business, whatever. But so I definitely want to keep the website updated, keep the episodes going, draw them in a bit, have a very strict schedule with them. Also, I want to branch out a little bit more and get some other guests to come on the show. You know, Tiger's been on a couple of times. We've talked about doing something in the makerspace. You know, get some other people involved, just to some other ideas flowing in that collaboration. That's one of the things that is really great about having a makerspace and having community people to work with, is that collaboration. So anyway, that's kind of where I feel like I want to go with 2019. And see, a few people have stuck with me this evening. Do you have any questions or comments or ideas as well about what's going on here? I mean, I don't want this to turn into a, you know, Jeremy makes stuff with 3D printing in every episode, 100% of the time. I feel like I've done a lot with the 3D printing so far, but it's proven itself to be a good tool to be used in collaboration with things. And that's where this new project with the Wi-Fi controlled piano playing device is moving forward with that. And, you know, gifts and trinkets and stuff, you know, I've got my pen holder that I 3D printed, and, you know, all that. That's cool, but it also, I mean, you put it on the shelf and then it's there. I mean, some of it's useful, right? Like, I made some coasters. That's cool. I've got some coasters. But I feel like that's not using the 3D printer to its maximum potential. You know, experimenting with, like, the fabric stuff, or doing, you know, the 3D world puzzle, which you can't see because it's green. Doing the 3D world puzzle, right? I mean, that was fun and that was interesting, and it's got this pretty cool little showpiece, but it also, you know, was using some 3D design and modifying models and all this other kind of stuff. Some other good things that can be used in other projects going forward. So it's, you know, gifts are cool. I like giving people stuff. Like, and printing that horse for 72 hours was neat. Gave it to my friend's daughter. She really loves horses. She's actually supposed to be painting it and supposed to send me some pictures, so I don't know. Maybe I'll show how that ended up. But for me, I can only go so far with, you know, there's something on the shelf I printed. That's pretty cool. I don't know. It leaves me wanting more from my time and my money for the printers and things like that. So that's where I'm hoping to push things forward. So, and in that time I've rambled on. Nobody seemed to have any questions or comments or anything. So I guess I'm going to pretty much wrap that up then for this first episode of 2019. Let's see. Tiger says, maybe you can start with my garage finger before you do a whole piano hand. Well, I'm not sure if you caught the last episode, Tiger, but the piano hand isn't an actual hand. It's literally just a bunch of individual garage fingers. So, you know, kind of doing both at the same time here. The whole thing started where Tiger said, you know, sometimes I need to close the garage remotely and I don't want to replace the whole unit with a Wi-Fi controlled whatever. I just wish I had a Wi-Fi finger. You push the button. So that's where this started. Now, I did take it the step further and wanted to 3D scan my own finger to be the finger, and you know, set up the whole control thing and being able to push the keys on the keyboard, but you know, that's pushing a button on the wall, right? So It's all tied together, you know. Just a whole bunch of one fingers. And maybe you won't like my finger. Maybe you'll want to 3D scan your own finger to push your own garage wall button, door button thing. Or a robot finger. Who knows? Or your wife's finger or whatever, you know. I mean, we can have some fun with it. But, yeah, so pretty much, I guess that's it. Hopefully this didn't seem like too boring of a video. Or episode. I do have a couple of other new things to kind of show off. Not necessarily episode related, but... And Tiger, this may surprise you. I ordered a pack of extruder nozzles with all the different sizes from 0.2 millimeters to 1.0 millimeters. I'm really excited about using the 1.0 millimeter nozzle. You can make some nice big stuff really fast. So that'll be interesting to see. And then I've been researching a couple different ways to smooth the PLA prints without using crazy chemicals and stuff. So yeah, surprise. I've got a nice little new pack of nozzles. Let's see, Tiger says, I do need your help scanning a delicate statue for some religious people. Yeah, you know, once I get the 3D scanning stuff worked out, had some problems last week. I've done some tutorials, you know, working on some stuff, but once you get it worked out, it's going to be great. And that may be another service that I can offer along with, you know, printing stuff and design stuff and whatever. But yeah, so all kinds of cool stuff ahead. On top of, you know, other work and other work. Family stuff and all that. And all the hobbies, I guess. But, see, what else did you get for Christmas? So, let's see. Well, none of those, I didn't get any of those for Christmas, right? The lathe and the 3D printer I bought for myself. The 3D printer like weeks before, and the lathe on New Year's Day. But I did get the Yeti from my brother, the Swiss Army knife from my father-in-law. I got some filament. I always ask for filament for Christmas because that's easy, right? It's PLA. And generally, the most common size is 1.75, and it's just like, oh, I like this red, or I like this blue, or I like this purple. If I don't like it, I can always paint it. So I got some more filament for Christmas. I got a RAM upgrade for my laptop from 8 gigs to 32 gigs. Some Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, my favorite. Let's see, what else? I had some books. Couple new books that are on my to-read shelf in the library. I haven't really talked much about our library here on the channel. We've got, I guess it was supposed to be the formal living room. You know, in the old houses, there was the living room with the TV, then there was the living room without the TV, and the little teacups. That's how I always thought of it. So this was supposed to be the living room without the TV and with the teacups. We turned it into a library when we moved in here. And nice, big, tall wooden bookcases and nice, comfy chairs. And I've got a to-read shelf. My wife has a to-read shelf. And then everything else is sorted by genre and then author. So there's like classic literature, and there's science fiction and fantasy, textbooks, nonfiction. I think there's a section for TV show related stuff like Doctor Who and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and whatever. Some Star Trek and whatever. We've got a comic book shelf. I've got a whole section of RPGs, a section of business books. So anyway, I've got some books for Christmas. They're on the to-read shelf. And I'm really looking forward to working on reading through those books. One of them was about it's about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and all, you know, the entrepreneurs, or what was the title of the book? Oh, it was about the current, you know, regime of super rich business guys that are working on programs to go to space, basically. I mean, that's a horrible way to describe the book, but that's what it is, I guess. I mean, and then there's another YouTube channel. It's super popular. These guys have even been on Jimmy Fallon on the Tonight Show, called Good Mythical Morning. They wrote a book together. The two main guys on the show got their book. Got some like sci-fi pulp paperbacks, stuff like that. Let's see. Got a new card game. You know, got a pretty big board game collection. So I mean, got a bunch of cool stuff. A lot of stuff, a lot of things to play with and do and all that. It's kind of difficult for. So like at Christmas and gift giving holidays, I really enjoy giving the gifts and figuring out like the right thing for the right people, and like knowing, oh, this is gonna be perfect for my mom, for my dad, for my brother, his wife, whatever, my nephew, etc. But then like people never know what to get me, and they always ask like, oh, what should we do? What do you want? And all this. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, like with the 3D printer and the lathe, it's I feel like too expensive to ask for somebody when it's like, hey, what do you want to give for Christmas? Like, ah, give me $400. I'm gonna go buy some tools. It just doesn't work out. And really, I feel like, I don't know. I don't necessarily like receiving gifts. It might seem kind of weird, but yeah, Tiger, Rhett and Link, Good Mythical Morning, good guys. But I don't really like receiving gifts. It's weird. I don't know. And I guess couple that with nobody really knows what to get me because they think I'm gonna want something crazy or whatever. I don't know. And that's nothing against other people. A lot of times I do want crazy stuff, right? Like a lathe or RAM for a laptop. That's not something grandma's gonna just pick out on the shelf for me at Walmart, right? So, but yeah, I got some good stuff. And, a lot of thought went into a lot of the gifts and things like that too. And, I can always use more filament. I love more filament, different colors, different types, whatever. So, that's good stuff. And, yeah, we got to visit a lot of family. We went to my in-laws for a few days, and then at Christmas, my mom and dad and brother and his wife and my grandma were here with us. My grandma, it was the first time she got to come to our new house. We've been here almost a year, but she doesn't leave East Texas that often, and she was really interested to. She's watched the show, and she'll probably watch this later and comment on me talking about her. But she's watched the show, and she was like, hey, so show me how this 3D printer thing works. So I brought it up here in the office, and I was actually printing some paper clips, or chip clips. And before she left, I gave her some chip clips, that were 3D printed that didn't exist, and now they do. And she got to see it happening. And we, I showed her the green screen, and we were talking about stuff in the office and whatever, and so it was a lot of fun. I think that was one of my favorite Christmas gifts was my grandma coming to the house. So don't get to see her as often as I'd like, but so yeah, that's kind of what went down with Christmas. And then for New Year's, we didn't really do much. I bought the lathe, but that's it. Let's see. Stinger839 says, I was just thinking about my relationship to gift giving. Usually giving gifts is more important and rewarding. I am so particular. I can be unthinking and criticize gifts. But, Always like a surprise gift, even if it's a crap gift. Speaking of surprise gifts, a friend of mine surprised me with a box full of candy and treats, barbecue sauce, dulce de leche sort of caramel type stuff in the mail. And he was overseas for a little while and got back into town and into the U.S. and all that. And I was surprised with a nice box full of goodies actually today. So, surprise gifts are great, right? It's just like, oh, hey, what is this? And it's the best Serbian barbecue sauce or whatever, right? So I hear. So it's fun times, good times. But anyway, I think I'm gonna call it a night here. It's actually a holiday week, so I gotta go down to work tomorrow too. So, but I can get out a little bit early and get to work on putting the lathes together. So that'll be good. Hopefully this weekend I can do my first turnings on a few things, and hopefully all the pieces are there and everything works out nicely, and I can do some cool stuff. So, I got a million ideas. It's crazy. So many ideas. But anyway, thanks for hanging out, guys. Tiger and Stinger839. I'm not sure if anybody else has stopped by. If they did, they didn't say anything. So I guess that means you weren't really there. And I like how the chat worked out here today too. In the in the window here, I just moved it as I pointed at it. That's cool. And Stinger839 says good night. Have a good night, and catch you next week. And out. Here we go.